So you have a helium hotspot and you want to put it in an outdoor enclosure outside so that you can get that antenna way up in the air to get higher HNT yields. Well, if you're on a budget and you have an open mind, stick around. All right, so good. What we're going to do today is we're going to go through a brief overview of how this might look. What we're talking about today is we're talking about a pet food container. It's a pet food container that we've used in a couple of our applications and we've done some testing on. Then the lid screws off the top of it. Other than the lid, there's no other holes anywhere, other than seems to be a seam around this outside ledge right here. And they do that so that they could snap this threaded sleeve around the top of this molded container so that then they can thread the lid right onto the top of it. Now this lid has a O-ring that it's kind of hard to see, but there's an O-ring, a white O-ring that goes all the way around the outside of it. And that's presumably to kind of keep it airtight. The testing that we did, and I'll probably show some video here, the testing that we did was basically what you might experience with maybe an IP65 or an IP65 test, where we have water jets hitting the enclosure at multiple angles and directions, and basically what you're doing with the IP65 test is you're checking for water intrusion. When we tested this enclosure, we found that it did take in some water. And what we found was that it was likely due to the seam around this. Now, not because of the seal between the lid and this sleeve, but between the sleeve and this container. So right around this edge. So what we do to seal that up is basically use just a household, construction caulk like this. We use this caulk and we use use it right around this outside edge right here. You can see that we've kind of caulked all the way around this lid. And so when we redid the testing for a 2-hour water spray, we didn't get any water intrusion. So based on that testing that we did, we felt like this is a pretty reliable system. And now, really, it may be even a little bit overkill, because when you see, like, for example, what FeedomFi recently recommended, they actually recommended which I think is a really great enclosure. They actually recommended this, which is basically what you would see like for a phone company or an internet service provider might have this installed on the outside of your house. And you can see this unit doesn't have really any sealing properties around this outside lip right here. Now, I haven't done any testing on this, but I can assume that with multiple angles of water spray that this probably would take in more water than this pet food container that we're showing today. But we'll go over this enclosure, which I think is a really good enclosure. Click this link in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll see our review of this and actually our application, because we're going to be using this quite a bit also. I think this is a really good solution for a lot of people. The price point between these two items, $35 versus $17. So $35 for this specific enclosure that FeedomFi recommended, both of which you can purchase on Amazon, and the links will be in the description and so on. Today we're going to be talking about the pet food container, which at $17 and change, $17 or $18 is a really good solution. So we'll get this out of the way. Now, if you guys want to see this in a little bit more of a detailed assembly fashion, if you'd like to see a video that kind of gets to more detail in terms of exactly how you put every bolt into it and every screw and exactly how to actually caulk the outside edge, leave some comments in the description section below, because this video today is just going to be talking about the basics of this and how to use all the parts and the pieces. You'll be able to get a link to all the products if you go to the bottom of heliumstreet.com, or you can also go to the purple series and you can go to pet food enclosure tab for that. or you can go to the description section of this video and you can pick up those links. So either way, we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you to really kind of hone in on the parts and the pieces that you need for this specific type of an installation. Now, this is the enclosure, and what I have shown today is I have some cable glands. These are basically water-resistant cable routing fittings that are used in in most types of outdoor enclosures that you might see in an industrial application. These are pretty cheap. Now, specifically for these cable glands, what you do is you are typically in a situation where you have the end of the cables cut. And so this would work for, say, for example, if you're running a power cord into it and you had the end cut off, and then you pulled it all the way through, and then you just have to rewire that power cord once it was in the inside of this. Another application would be Ethernet. So if you're running Ethernet through it, now you wouldn't be able to run the full fitting through this. Okay, there are fittings, and maybe I'll put a link to a fitting that does work for just plugging the Ethernet RJ45 connection into it. So if you're running your Ethernet through this, and then redoing the plug once it's on the inside, this type of a fitting will work for you. What this won't work typically is if you buy your cable from MNTD Digital, because the ends are already attached to the cable that you buy, you wouldn't be able to fit those ends through these connections. So in situations where you can't use the cable glands to run your wires in, basically I go pretty low tech. Like I said, we're using this step bit, and basically what we do is we just drill a hole as small as we can, or small as I should say, as small as we need, into the side of the enclosure. Okay, I'm just going kind of fast here. And if I then run my cable into the container, then what I'll do then is I'll use the caulk to go around that hole. I know it's not real high tech, but it works. And once all your cables are set, it's really the last thing I do is I get all my cables set and I get everything routed. I get my cables stapled to the side of whatever structure it is. I will typically run it underneath like this so that I can keep water from pooling on top of a seam or an area. And then I'll usually caulk it from the outside, and I'll also caulk it from the inside. So that's typically how I handle connections where I can't use like a waterproof type fitting. And by the way, what I use for drilling my holes is I use these step bits. These are really nice. This happens to be a Lennox step bit. I've had it for a long, long time, but I went on Amazon to look and see if I could recommend a specific step bit. I found this exact same one that I probably purchased 10 years ago. It still looks almost identical to this. It goes up to about a 1-inch diameter, which works for any one of these cable glands, and it will also work for the connections from MNTD Digital for the N-type. So if you look at, if you need to fit an N-type end through this, then this step bit will work. And if you're trying to fit through the SMA connection size, then this step bit will work. So either one will work fine for whichever end you're trying to get into this box. So again, you'll find all the links to every one of these products on the Purple series, and you go to the Petfood Enclosure tab, and you'll see all that. So basically what we're doing here today is we're going to just kind of show a quick example of how the actual miners fit inside. And so if you look at the different types of miners, now the smallest of all of them, you have the RAK version 2. So this RAK version 2 obviously will fit easily into it, but you don't just put it in. You typically need to fix the miner to something specific, and what I've been using are these tie plates. You can buy these at big box stores, and well, at least the ones that I go to, you can buy these tie plates. This is a 5 3/4 inch by 7 inch tie plate, and it has the pre-punched holes in it. Now, these pre-punched holes are great for attaching the tie plate onto the inside of this container, right? Because you basically just drive screws in and you use a little bit of the caulk to seal up the holes. So basically what you do is you identify where the holes are, you mark them with a Sharpie, or sometimes what I like to do is I like to use an ice pick, and I get it real hot on the end, and I'll just like poke a couple holes into the plastic, and that it actually not only marks the hole, but it also makes a pilot hole for my screws to go into. So I like that. I like that method. Basically what we're talking about doing here is we're putting the tie plate. It's just basically just a 20 gauge steel, a galvanized piece of metal that they use in framing for construction of homes and different structures, and they use these plates to hold joists together in a lot of different applications. But it's really readily available, and again, you can find it on Amazon. Also, you can buy one, and I found the link for where you can buy one of these. Typically they sell them in boxes of 1,000, but you can buy one of these on Amazon, and the link that you'll find in the description section and on heliumstreet.com. But anyway, so basically what we do is I'll move this out of the way for now, for a second. Yes, so if you look at the rack unit, it's got 4 holes in the corners. Okay, so the rack unit doesn't line up with the existing holes. Okay, let me get this out of the way. It doesn't line up with the existing holes. In fact, none of the miners really line up with any of the existing holes. So you'll have to drill new holes potentially. Another way to go about this, and I'll tell you what, this little bracket set right here from Amazon has the brackets that you need to put this rack unit on. And what I do, these are stainless steel brackets, and basically what I do is these holes actually line up really well actually with the bracket. So if you can see that, maybe you can't see that, but this actually does line up. And so basically what we do here is we'll use, and all the hardware comes in this little kit. Okay, so you use these short screws and they are shorties. These are 1/2-inch screws. They come with these little 1/2-inch screws, a whole bunch of them, and then they have a screw that looks like it's about 1 1/4 inches long. They even have some drywall mollies. This kit has all these screws, and you will use these for a lot of these different applications. So if you have a Linxdot, you'll use this bracket set. If you have a Bobcat, you'll use a lot of this hardware also. If you have a Kerlink, and I'll show you that in a minute. So basically, the rack unit then would sit on top of a little bit of this 3M double stick tape. And I'll lay a piece of the tape, double stick tape, on top of this bracket, and then I'll basically just sit this rack unit right on top of it like that, making sure that I've got my Bluetooth button and my power port facing up. And so I'll just stick it on there like that, and then I'll take this whole unit, and then that'll go right in and get screwed into the outdoor enclosure, the Petfood bottom right down inside. Okay, that's how this rack unit would go in. Like I said, these screws would get put into each one of these holes to hold these brackets on, and actually the holes line up really well. So that's the one nice part about this tie plate and these stainless steel brackets, both purchased on Amazon. Now, if I want to use this setup for, say, example, a Bobcat. This is the new Bobcat, by the way. The one that has the new logo. And so for the Bobcat, it comes with this bracket set. Okay, so it comes with this bracket. So I take this off. Okay. And I'm not using these stainless steel brackets, but I will actually end up using the screws that come with this stainless steel bracket, because I'll have to drill my own holes. Now I'll be able to use one of them, but I won't be able to use the other. And then basically then you just get this all installed inside of the enclosure, just like this. And then when you're ready to install the miner inside, you just put it in and you click it onto this bracket that comes with the Bobcat. So that's a really nice application also. So for the Bobcat. Now for, say, example, you're talking about the Linxdot machine, which is this unit right here. Now the Linxdot actually will fit inside of this pet food container as well. I know it seems awfully big, but it does fit. So I just want to make sure that you see that. So I'm going to move this stuff out of the way for a second and show you that it does actually fit. And I use this bracket with this Linxdot machine miner also. So we'll slide that out of the way. And you'll see that, so you'll see that this will fit inside quite easily as well. And the way that I would attach my Linxdot machine to this tie plate is very similar. And I would likely, instead of using these slide tabs here with small bolts, but in this case, what I'll end up doing is that I'm going to end up doing this type of an installation. So I'll line this up. Before my RAK unit was right here for my RAK unit. Okay. So for my RAK unit, it was going to sit right on top of those brackets like that. And you can see where the brackets line up, and they sit on top of that double stick tape. And you can put that double stick tape on this side and on that side, and you just come in and you just set it right on top of it. And that's just a really nice, secure application for this. But for the Linxdot unit, what I'll do then is I'll open this up a little bit wider, like to right about there. Use my provided screws at all 4 of those spots, right there, right there, right there, and right there. Okay. And I'll do the same thing with that double stick tape. Now, the important part about these units is that you need to make sure that you're putting it on top of the brackets in the orientation that works best for your specific application. The reason why I say that is because of cable management. And so when you get this sitting in here on top of these brackets, you need to make sure that the ports are going in the direction that you need them to go to. The last thing you want to do is, say, for example, my ports on the outside of my Linxdot machine, and say I go like this, and it's all the way tight to one of the walls on the inside of the enclosure, and I might not have room to turn those corners and get, for example, my antenna cable, the coax connected to the end of the port here for my antenna. Now, in most cases, your DC input and your or if you decide to go with Ethernet instead of Wi-Fi, then your Ethernet will usually snake around there pretty easily. But so you need to make sure that your main priority here for all these units is to make sure that this port is in a spot that it makes it easy to turn a corner and plug into it. Okay, so that's the important part, because these LMR 400 wires are a little bit tough to work with, and so you got to make sure that you have it going in a kind of a right angle in some cases, and this will work. So it'll go down in, and then you'll attach the RPSMA female connection, basically, or male connection. So it's the female coming out of here, so you've got a male connection here on your wire, and that goes in okay, just like that. So this will work for Linxdot also. And also, let's take a look at a Kerlink unit. Now, for a Kerlink unit, a little bit different. The Kerlink unit is a little bit different, and the reason why I say that is because it has, but it's so lightweight. I mean, it feels like I'm holding on to just a piece of plastic, but rest assured, there is a circuit board inside of it. But in this case, I think what else I would do probably is I would probably just get the tie bracket, and I'd use a little bit of this double stick tape, and I think I would just attach it just like that right onto the tie bracket, and I think that's all I would need to do. Now, maybe if you don't feel completely comfortable with that, you might maybe put some sort of a zip tie strap over the top of this to hold this down. But you can kind of maybe drill some larger holes on the sides and fit a couple of zip ties put together to hold this down onto that double stick tape, because it'll be mounted in this type of a way, right? It'll be mounted like that. And so with heat and with basically time, you might find that the heat might affect the adhesive on this double stick tape, and it might eventually fall off. But so I think maybe using the zip ties to hold this down might be a smart way to go about it. But again, this tie plate again is definitely a really good common part to get for all these applications using this guy right here. Okay, so the other thing I'll mention here is that once we've figured out how to attach the miner to the tie plate, and we're using some of this hardware, it comes with longer screws also, which will be nice not only to attach the tie plate that holds the miner onto the back here. You basically just set it down in, and then you run some pilot holes, and you use this hardware screws that come with this bracket kit. And it comes with longer screws also, not only those little shorties, but it also comes with the 1 1/4 inch. You can use a lot of the fasteners from this bracket set to attach the enclosure itself to whatever structure it is that you're going to attach it to. And when you look at the actual enclosure, a good way to install it is like this. Because what you have then is that you have kind of like a natural slope here for when rain comes down, it kind of comes off and then it'll drip off more, and you'll keep it away from those spots where you want to run your wires in. Okay, so what I've been doing lately, and I didn't do this at first, but I am now moving forward, is that I'm installing it in this orientation. And so I'll attach it right to a pole, and I'll use this bracket kit. Again, links at heliumstreet.com. I'll use this bracket kit. So basically what we do here then is we attach this to this, and then we attach this entire assembled unit to a pole this bracket comes with these stainless steel clamps that go around a pole, or you can just run screws through the back of this, and then using some of the caulk, you can use this caulk to kind of caulk up the holes, and then just run this right onto the structure, like on the side of a building, or onto a 4x4 post, or any size post, telephone pole that might be being used for this purpose, an unused telephone pole. And so yeah, you can attach this to whatever structure you want, and some of this hardware might come in handy. You may need to end up going with a longer screw to get into whatever structural component that you need to get into. But yeah, there's a lot of options here with this type of unit. And so if there's anything in this whole installation that you would like to get more detail on, or if you want to see a video on exactly how to do a specific miner, and leave some comments in the comment section, you might find that there's that you have some suggestions also. So leave those comments in the comment section. This is kind of a work in process, so we're glad to have you here today. And like I said, like I said before, if you got anything out of this today, then like and subscribe, and make sure you tell all your friends to get involved with the Helium network. The more we grow this network, the more that we can all support the network, and we can enjoy the fruits of the network. So thanks again for being here, and have a great day.